In the 1970s, America had Ralph McQuarrie and John Berkey with breathtaking sci-fi art that changed the world. And in Europe, we had English artist Don Lawrence. Together with Dutch writer and artist Martin Lodewijk, they came up with Storm. Literally everybody had this collection, and this being the pre-internet era, also probably a teenager's first chance to appreciate the female form in all its splendor. It was a genius concept, combining the best parts of Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, Frank Frazetta beauties, some 80s muscle, check, and more Mobius fantasy than a pterodactyl can eat. The stories were so captivating as well. Imagine reading this and then turning the page. Boom. So the main characters are Storm and Red Hair, and then later Nomad joins the cast. My favorite issue is where they go to Nomad's hometown, and Red Hair has to do a ritualistic dance fight in a volcano on a drum skin. Check out these colors and the graceful movements. Don's style changed a lot over the years, which is natural if you draw close to 1,000 pages of the same character. And I think this is the most iconic image, and in this he uses that stripe paint style that Paolo Serpieri from Druna also uses. Let's try to recreate it in Photoshop. I'm using a basic shape with a mask in this case, which allows you to mix paint while staying in a certain shape. Just add a layer on top of a shape and press Option while hovering between the layers. I'm still learning how to paint digitally, but I find I only use these 5 brushes. The pencil with a low opacity, the brush with 100% smoothing for crisp lines. This one you have to download. Kyle's Real Watercolor with no smoothing. Then the basic soft round brush. And to blend, I use Kyle's Real Watercolor Soft Edge, which funnily enough changes into the smudge tool when you select it, because it actually doesn't paint, it just mixes what's there already. So yeah, everything in this video was done with those 5. This leg here is not so complex because it's basically just a cylinder shape. So let's study some faces. In later years, Don used this style more, kind of a soft watercolor feeling. And I read in interviews that he had to change his style because of eye surgery. So I think that's why he kind of stopped using that super tight stripe hatching painting style. Okay, add some old paper, filters, transform a bit. Looks pretty spot on, so time for a tougher challenge. Let's make a cover combining these elements. Often there's a bright planet with some sort of vehicle in a very dynamic angle. So let's make Storm and Red Hair on a kind of a hoverboardish tech surfboard. Yeah, Storm is steering and Red Hair is eye candy. Sorry, gotta make it style accurate, right? This is it, I think. Especially the twist in Storm's pose and the hair going back will make it dynamic. And that real water brush tool works perfectly to recreate this planet. Super quick as well. This literally just takes a few minutes to make a planet like this. Just add some more saturation and onto the hard part. One thing that Don always does is that hard deltoid shadow, so definitely adding that. You can see how he drew the face different over the years, but I'll try to mix all of them. Also, Red Hair's look evolved. Okay, now this took many frustrating hours, but I'm kind of happy with how the pants are turning out. And for the hoverboard, I thought to add those iconic Don Lawrence red and yellow V-shapes, but it somehow looked weird in perspective, so I just did the parallel stripes. Okay, done. Very difficult. Looks okay from far though, but somehow the dynamic of the original sketch is completely lost in the flat painting. Not giving up though. Let's do a fun mashup. Classic Red Hair pose with one of my go-to Google image references, Sports Illustrated swimsuit. And I found this Red Sonja cosplay, which is perfect as well. Mixing these 2 poses will be cool and will give me reference for dropping shadows and looking at shapes. And I found these 2 and decided to give her a more confident bossy pose. Again, tricky painting. And in this one I'm happy with how the sword looks. Let's see if some tweaking helps, some color options, or hide just about everything. Strike 2!
Don't look at me! Don't look at me!
So one more try. I'm gonna base this one off of my favorite scene where they are caught in a sandstorm. Look at how good these poses are and how accurate the sand looks. So let's go old school and start with a pencil sketch. Storm covered in sand. Fun fact, Don basically worked without photo reference, and in earlier issues you sometimes see weird anatomy, so I believe that. One thing that was always perfect though was his women. Maybe his wife looked like red hair? It's insane if you think that he drew 2 painted pages a week, and at this small size. About 20 years ago I was in Groningen in the comic book museum, and I think that day I might have been the only one there. So I had all the time in the world to look at the Don Lawrence exhibit, and there they showed a video on a loop of Don painting these panels, and I think I must have watched it 6 times or something. Really magical skills. Then Don died, and a nationwide search was on to find his replacement. Many tried, but none could do it as well as Don. Of course, our nostalgia for his work makes it an impossible task, because even Don himself was not always consistent, so how can any other artist fill his shoes? These days, Romano Molenaar draws Storm, and the painted style kind of sets that tone, but for me personally, the ink outlines give it a bit too much Marvel comic book and not enough heavy metal paint. But yeah, I'm struggling myself here to get that paint style, so... In Don's work you see some outlines, but also just patches of color separation next to each other. Gaussian blur a bit and let's call it a day. And I ate a lot of humble pie on this challenge. The leg and face are perfect, but I don't think that counts because I was just copying. I'll keep practicing this style because I'm interested in making videos also on George Akimoto, who did those super cool blaxploitation posters. And after a lot more practice, maybe Robert E. McGuinness. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope I introduced Don Lawrence to some more possible fans. So check those books out. You won't regret it, believe me. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and catch you next time.